Howdy folks, my name is John Timms. Welcome to Boonedockery. This video will be an introduction to a series of videos I'm going to be doing on the solid fuel stove. It's a very common stove, but it's a stove a lot of people misunderstand or don't know a whole lot about. Hopefully by the time that this series is over, you'll get a greater understanding of what the stove is and how to use it, and hopefully build a deeper appreciation for the simplistic nature and reliability of the stove. Let's go ahead and get started. Solid fuel stoves come in a lot of different styles. Almost all of them are small, compact, and lightweight and made of metal. They utilize a compressed chemical fuel tab. The stoves, when deployed, has a designated fuel basin for the fuel tab. They generally have raised areas for your cook pot to sit in for you to boil your water. Many of the stoves can be reconfigured to maximize the fuel efficiency by focusing that heat into a smaller area. The best thing about solid fuel stoves is that they're inexpensive. The fuel and the stoves are probably the cheapest stove choice that you could have for camping or bushcraft. Another nice thing about them is they are readily available. You can purchase different types of these stoves at Walmart, so you don't have to go to a specialty store to get them. One thing I love about these is they're very rugged. So if you want something small, you could possibly put in your hip pocket. You want something lightweight. You want something that's inexpensive. You want something that's going to heat up your water to make your coffee, or to reconstitute your mountain house meals, or to heat up a can of soup. This is your stove. There's a lot of benefits, and there's a few disadvantages as well. So we'll talk about those next. Before I go over the advantages and disadvantages of the solid fuel stove, let's go ahead and set this up real quick and make a little cup of joe, just to show how quick and easily you can set these things up. Put my fuel tab, the center of the stove. Stove's configured. Go ahead and light the fuel source. Now while that's heating up, we'll go over those advantages and disadvantages. Jotted a few down. First of all, as we mentioned before, they're very compact. And they have a fairly simple design, so they're not real complicated to use. They are lightweight. They're very rugged. I've sat on mine, I've fallen on mine, and I've never had any problem with it damaging them. They're inexpensive. Best thing. Very nice, especially when you want to get into camping, you want to get into bushcrafting. When you start looking at alcohol stoves, you start looking at isobutane stoves and white gas stoves, they start really adding up into your budget. And a lot of people, it's prohibited. These are very inexpensive. Very quick setup time. You saw how fast I was able to get this thing up and going. So if you're hiking along the trail, you're really trying to push, get those miles in, but you want to stop and take a break, heat up a cup of soup or something like that, a quick meal, this is ideal for that. They're self-contained. The nice thing about most of the stoves I have, not only are they compact, but when they fold up into a little box, and you can actually put your fuel inside that little box, so it's all self-contained. You can use different types of fuels. I have one stove that's designed for either a solid fuel, a gelled fuel, or a gelatinous cube. And the brand is Fire Dragon, and it's what the British military are using now. You could also, because of the way the stove's designed as a basin, you could even put regular liquid alcohol in it. So you can use different types of fuel sources for these. They're easy to modify. If you find that it's a problem for you to keep these things going in high winds, you can easily make a windshield for those. As a matter of fact, that was one of the videos that I would like to do, is a how-to, a DIY project on just creating a quick and simple windshield for your stove. It maximizes its efficiency. You can use something called wet fire, and wet fire is not as efficient as a fuel tab as some others, but the nice thing that's going for it is it can actually ignite and burn even if it gets wet. These produce very little smoke. You can see there's no smoke coming off of here right now. And compared to a lot of other stove types, the flame is not all that bright. That's the reason why a lot of military units prefer to use this type of stove as opposed to some of the others. No smoke and very low light signature. So it's good for light and sound discipline. However, there are disadvantages as well. It has limited uses. I cannot cook a steak on this. I can boil some soup. I could make some beef stew in it, but it's going to be something that has to be done fairly quickly. You can't simmer with this type of fuel. You can't expose the food itself directly to the flame. So it does have limited uses, but the uses that you can use it for, it does the job very well. It creates harmful fumes. The way that these chemicals are produced, it releases certain those chemicals through the gases. Two of the gases I'm aware of that are released into the air is formaldehyde and ammonia. These, if you were to use these in an enclosed space without proper ventilation, you very easily will get nose irritation, you'll get eye irritation. And if it's bad, you definitely want to rinse your eyes out, get fresh air, things like that. But this fuel type is not designed to be used in an enclosed space. So that is a very big disadvantage compared to some others. You can't use this in your stove, in your tent, like you can with other stoves. The fuel is not as efficient as some of the other stove types that are out there. I have an alcohol stove that is fantastic. It's very efficient. However, you have to utilize this to its maximum potential. If you feel that you need to make a windshield, make a windshield. If you feel you need to configure your stove to focus that heat into a smaller area to maximize the heat that's on the bottom of your cook pot, do it. Maximize the efficiency of what you have. Don't just let it burn in a willy-nilly manner, because if you do, you're going to be disappointed. It's going to be less efficient than your other fuel sources. You can't really regulate the flame on this like you can other stoves. Even an alcohol stove, you have a thing called a simmer plate, to where you put over top of it, and it reduces the amount of heat that goes to the cook pot above, allowing you not to have such a hot spot on the inside of your cook pot. Like I said, you cannot cook food directly on this. If you were to try to roast a hot dog or a marshmallow on this, it's going to be bombarded with all those chemicals from that chemical fuel tab. You definitely would not want to eat anything like that. Fuels are not consistent. Each manufacturer will have a different formula that they use for their fuel tabs. And because of that, you cannot buy one company's fuel tab and expect it to perform exactly the same way that another company's did. You might be very used to one company's product and its performance and get used to that. Let's say you can't purchase that particular product again, so you use another source. You can't depend upon that to work as efficiently or inefficiently as far as that goes as the other one. The best thing you need to do is to do test burns on these fuel types when you get them. Wind really negatively affects the performance of your stove. Like I said, the stove designs will maximize the amount of air that can get into the fuel source. And because of that, they're fairly open as far as this design goes. There are certain stove designs that are skeletonized. They are minimalistic to an extreme. And wind will definitely affect that negatively. Let's say when I'm finished with this, it's come to a boil, I can blow that flame out. And I can let that cool, and I can reuse the remnants that are left in future outings to add to other little remnants to create more heat for my stove. If I can blow it out, you know that the wind, a good strong wind, can blow it out as well. That is pretty much the advantages and disadvantages of the stove. Considering the compactness, the lightweight, the ruggedness, the inexpensive fuel, the inexpensive stove themselves, the ease of use, the simplicity of this, I think that those advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. In just the short amount of time that we went through this list, we're just about at a boil with one tab, and that is going to be perfect for 1 cup of coffee. It's not quite at a rolling boil, but it's definitely hot enough to make a good cup of joe. And even though that fuel is just about burned all the way out, I'm going to go ahead and blow it out. If I can do that, Mother Nature can definitely produce enough wind to do it. Now, I realize that there are a lot of you out there that disagree with me as far as this being a good choice. And that's fine. I personally feel that it is what it is. And as long as you look at this stove and the type of stove that it is as being nothing more than what it is, you can't be disappointed. If I were to purchase this and expect it to do the same performance as my Whisper Light, MSR Whisper Light, I would be very sadly disappointed. There's probably a lot of you out there that have purchased these, didn't like the way they performed, either threw it away, gave it away, put it on a shelf somewhere, and forgot about it. With a couple of videos I'm going to produce for do-it-yourself projects for these, I can show you ways to where you can maximize the performance of these stoves and hopefully get them to where you want to take them out again. I know right now there's times to where I have a short amount of time to get in the woods, and I want to make the most of that time. So if I can grab something really quick and throw it in my pack and go, that's less time that I have to worry about getting fuel, refilling my fuel bottles, making certain that I have everything I need for that particular stove. I keep this stored with fuel in it, folded up. So all I have to do is reach in, grab it, throw it in a pack and go. For that matter, if I can get a canteen, get my canteen pouch. My canteen pouch has a small little pocket on there. I can actually slide that stove in there. My water bottle has a nesting cup with a lid that I keep in there. It's the cook pot. I have everything I need to prepare a mountain house meal, make a good cup of coffee, whatever I want to do with it. So if you've had problems with these in the past, you didn't really think they were your cup of tea, give them another try. If you've never used one of these and you're just getting into camping, hiking, bushcrafting, backpacking, canoeing, kayaking, whatever, and you think you'd like to have a simple, inexpensive stove to start off with, just to get your feet under you, the solid fuel stoves are an excellent way to go. Well, hopefully you got some good information out of this. If you have any suggestions, if you have any other input that you could throw into the fray for other people to consider, some helpful tips, maybe some do-it-yourself projects yourself, if you would mention those in the comments below. And I would appreciate any comments, whether or not it pertains to the stove or not. Anything that could help me out and produce better videos in the future would be deeply appreciated. If you like what you saw, you'd like to see more, please click subscribe and like, and I'll get another one up just as soon as I possibly can. Until then, thanks for watching.